When considering the remarkable music of Baroque master Johann Sebastian Bach, Karl Barth once observed that whether the angels play only Bach when praising God, I am not quite sure. This testament to Bach's musical genius is a fitting overture to a discussion of one of classical music's most accomplished composers and musical prodigies. Bach was born on March 31, 1685 in Eisenach in modern-day Germany to Johann Ambrosius Bach and Maria Elisabeth Lammerhut. Music and the name Bach went hand in hand as generation of Bachs before Johann served as professional musicians. The last of 8 children in the Bach household, Johann was destined to follow and completely outshine his ancestors in the art of music. Bach had a trying childhood. Over a span of 8 months, he lost both his mother and his father. At the tender age of 10, Johann Sebastian was sent to live with his eldest brother, Johann Christoph, who was 14 years his senior. By this time, the boy had already been introduced to the organ, violin, and the art of musical composition. His brother further taught him the clavichord and passed on much of the extensive knowledge he had acquired from his friendship with Johann Pachelbel, one of the most accomplished teachers and composers of his day. At 15, Bach began attending the prestigious St. Michael's School in Lüneburg. During this time, Bach was exposed to a wide range of European music, which would deeply influence his later work and spur him on to become one of the foremost composers in the history of music. As a student, his passion and attention to detail set him in a class above his most talented peers. When a piece of organ tablatures copied by the teenage Johann Sebastian was discovered in 2005, Bach scholar George B. Stauffer remarked that the copy showed a disciplined, well-trained teenager deeply committed to learning his craft. Young Bach was also a devoted walker, enjoying long excursions. It is reported he once walked 560 miles, 280 each way, to visit fellow organist and composer Dietrich Buxtehude in Lübeck. After graduating, Bach spent a short stint in 1703 as a Weimar court musician and then became organist at several churches before returning to Weimar in 1708. During this period, Bach married Maria Barbara Bach, his second cousin, who bore him 7 children before her death in 1720. After Maria's death, Bach married Anna Magdalena Bach, who would go on to have another 13. Sadly, only 10 of Bach's 20 children survived into adulthood. 4 of his surviving sons followed their father down a musical path. Professionally, Bach began composing in earnest during this period, developing his unique style within the framework of Baroque music. The Baroque era of Western music spanned the period between 1600 and 1750. The term Baroque comes from the Portuguese word barroco, meaning misshapen pearl. Baroque music was founded on the idea of common practice tonality, an approach to writing music in which a song or piece is written in a particular key. During the period, composers experimented with ways of creating a fuller sound for each instrumental part, a strategy that would give rise to the development of the orchestra. The latter part of Bach's life, from 1723 until his death in 1750, is known as the Leipzig period, a time of artistic achievement in which Bach produced at least 300 cantatas for church services. These multi-movement pieces, written for singers and/or instrumentalists, can last 30 minutes each, meaning that Bach produced the equivalent of 150 albums by today's music standards. And that's just his cantatas. Some of his most well-known compositions include Toccata and Fugue in D minor, Air on the G string, the Well-Tempered Clavier, and Mass in B minor, just to name a few. His output of Christian music was both prolific and virtuoso, offering some of the most moving and uplifting spiritual music ever composed. Even composer Felix Mendelssohn identified this music as the greatest Christian music in the world. He further remarked that if life had taken hope and faith from me, this single chorus would restore all. With badly failing eyesight, Bach underwent eye surgery in 1749, but the procedure was botched, leaving him blind. The following year, he suffered a stroke. Johann Sebastian Bach died on July 28, 1750, at the age of 65, leaving behind a legacy of music that would propel him into the ranks of Mozart and Beethoven. The music of Johann Sebastian Bach demonstrates intellect, sophistication, and beauty. But above all, it extols the love and mercy of the Christian God. In his own words, the aim and final purpose of music should be none other than the glory of God and the refreshment of the soul. Soli Deo Gloria, to the glory of God alone.